2021. The time is 6:33. Oh, let me put it
This
on record
meeting is
again.
being
Sorry.
recorded.
All right, I'd like to start the June 16th, 2021 Brookline Select Board meeting in progress. The time is 6:33. I have my hammer today. There we go.
That's from me, right?
Peter is going to do the minutes via audio, via recording, because he has been asked to be at the supervisory union. At this time, if you take a look at your agenda, does anybody have any changes that they would like to see made to the agenda? And I will look for people raising their hands. Okay.
Nope.
Okay, no changes to the agenda. We shall move forward. Oh, you know what? I didn't bring that. See, this is what happens when you don't. I left it home. Approve the minutes from the June 2nd, 2021 Select Board meeting. Do you have it with you?
No, but I copied the changes now.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any changes from page 1? Stan, you can unmute yourself. Let's see. Do you have the little mute on the bottom there, Stan?
I think it took a while to take, but it did take. So we're all
Okay.
under scheduled members of the public, the paragraph beginning with Mr. Dutton noted. Let's see. It would seem that it might be appropriate after the number $5,000 to insert the name of whoever of us it was that mentioned there was a balance in the Round Schoolhouse account. I want to say they might have quoted $2,519 or $17 or something to that effect that was available to pay for excess spending above and beyond the $5,000.
Yes, that was me. I noted that the bank, there was an account that had extra money in it from fundraising for the Round Schoolhouse.
Yeah. Because
So,
you had addressed the issue that was the concern, and it would be nice for that to appear in here so that whoever might be reading this online will know that there are monies that can take care of that.
Okay, very good. Anything else on page 1?
Yeah.
Bruce, you can let Stan finish. Go ahead, Stan.
The other one was under old business. The paragraph, the very first paragraph that starts out, Mr. Mello had, I believe in the second line, what should be there is the statement after Mr. Mello should be added, this will save Brookline $200. Because I don't think there was an amount of $300 that we discussed.
Right.
The bid was $1,000, and if someone in the town were to take over the monitoring of the mice, he would reduce the bill to $800, which was a savings of $200. And then
that is correct. Very good.
And then at the bottom, let's see, it's third paragraph, that same heading, old business, at the end of the second line, I think the word school should be inserted, such that Mr. Tanza suggested sending stored school documents to the school district for storage, as opposed to leaving the impression that we're going to have just documents sent to the school district for storage.
Correct. Good note.
The very last sentence on that page, Mr. Townsend noted was 1,500. I think probably the secretary meant to put in Mr. Townsend noted there was $1,500, or that there is $1,500, just to make it appropriate sentence.
Okay, perfect. Anybody else have anything for page 1?
Yes.
Bruce, you can unmute yourself.
Under scheduled members, it says, Mr. Dutton noted that a bid from Norm Holden. A bid from Norm Holding. So there was, Mr. Dutton noted that, and then there's a bid from Norm Holding. We should be holding.
Okay, very good.
Mark's here.
Anything else from page 1? We'll go to page 2. Any quick changes to page 2? Bruce, you can unmute yourself.
Wi-Fi hotspot. 2 wire guys had been verified. I don't know what that meant. I don't know. Had been verified, maybe notified.
Yeah, I think probably the spirit of it was they'd been notified or had been consulted, something like that.
Okay, that's it for me.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll go to that's page 2. Anything else on page 2? Anything on page 3?
Whoop, you missed page 2.
Stan? Oh, page 2, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that we look at line 3 of the first paragraph of the Wi-Fi hotspot. And if you look at the 3rd line, connection is an option, semicolon, that the service might end with the lifting of the pandemic emergency. I'm not sure how that fit in. That what's the intent of that phrase?
I think, if I recall, the 2 wire guys said that there might not be a need for a Wi-Fi hotspot in Brookline if the pandemic restrictions were lifted, because the library would have Wi-Fi hotspots, but we don't have a library in town. So, and Peter, as you're doing this as the minutes, if you have a question, give me a call. I think, but that's a good point. We'll look at that.
That's all I have.
Okay, anything on page 3? Okay, nothing on page 3. All right, and of course, I didn't bring it in front of me, but there are only 3 pages for the minutes. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes from the June 3rd meeting as corrected. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. All those in favor, raise your hand. How about that?
Standing where? Yeah.
Okay, and David?
Dave?
All those opposed?
Yeah, Dave doesn't want to.
I was just, we're accepting the minutes as amended, David.
Right. I just didn't realize we were now raising our hands for things.
Well, because we're having the audio, if you want to raise your hands, everybody has to be unmuted. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 It's worth
Audio.
noting that I was
Okay.
going to second.
All right, the minutes
motion, never seconded. So let's just let the record show that I seconded the motion.
Thank you, David. Motion is seconded and approved unanimously to accept the minutes as amended. Sorry about that. All right, we'll move on to scheduled members of the public. Joseph Dutton will not be able to be here today. We will talk about the Round Schoolhouse grant work in a few minutes. There are no unscheduled members of the public at this time, and we'll now go on to new business. Under new business, we received in the mail, email from the Vermont Leagues of Cities and Town and the National League of Cities, a virtual training for diversity, equity, and inclusion for local governments. There are 3 dates and times that are listed in our agenda: the 21st, 28th of June, and the 14th of July. They ask us to pre-register and to attend all 3 of the meetings. I personally thought that I would sign up for this. I thought it was a good idea, but going over the schedule, I can only make 1 meeting live. VLTC, when I contacted them for another meeting that they were having, that webinar, said that they will be recording that webinar. So I'm assuming that this may also be, but I'm not guaranteed. I don't know for sure. Is there anyone who has looked at those dates, David?
Yeah, so I contacted them for the same reason, because I want to take this, but I can't make, well, a couple things to note is that it's 3 parts. It's not just being offered on 3 dates. It's a 3-part series, and they would like you to attend all 3 of those parts. But because they're during work hours, I can't do any of them. I've contacted them twice through email, asking them whether it will be offered as a recording after the fact, and they haven't responded to me to either request. I assume that it will, because most of their things are made available as recordings after the fact, but I guess I don't know that for sure. But my intention is to view all of them afterwards in the evening once they're recorded, assuming they make them available. So, yeah.
Yep, my intention would also be to watch them. If I can't watch them at a live time, that I would like to go to the webinar recordings and view those as well. I think there's some things I can learn. Is there anybody else who would be interested in attending those or going through the diversity training? Stan? Okay.
Yeah, I will be able to attend and will attend all 3.
Okay. And all right. So I will, I guess there's 3 of them in July. So maybe sometime in August, we can have a follow-up on this.
Dot, I think it's also worth noting that they're free, unlike many other VLCT programs, which do have a cost even to members. This is a free training that they're offering. So all the more reason that it shouldn't be a barrier to anyone taking it if they can make the time.
Exactly. I think it would be a good program to, they usually do provide quality webinars. So I think that would be, so I'll put down that Dot, Stan, and David are going to do it. Okay. All right. Then we should move on. Any other discussion on the new business for that diversity training before I move on? Okay. All right. Next says fiscal year 2021-22 hourly rate update for Brookline employees. Identify pay rate changes for the employees for the fiscal year 2021 and discuss and vote. It can be retroactive. David, thank you very much. You did send out the schedule from the fiscal year 2021-2022 for the various positions that was discussed in budgeting for raises. Should I just go through and read them? Oh, here's my question. Did we not have Helen and Mike at $20 an hour?
I do not believe so. My recollection is that we had told them they would be compensated at $15 an hour, which I believe is what they have been being compensated at.
I guess you would just have to review the minutes.
Okay, so I would probably table that particular one because I will have to review the minutes on that. I do believe it was more than $15 an hour because of our desperate need to get qualified people in to do the grand list completions. So other than that, I am going to go run down the table so that if there's any questions. Town clerk, from these are the hourly changes: $19.75 to $21.75. Delinquent tax collector, $19.75 to $21.75. Assistant town clerk, $15 to $16 an hour. Town treasurer, $19.75 to $20 an hour. Assistant town treasurer, $15 to $16. Assistant town treasurer, Judy Akampora in this particular case, $20 an hour, stays the same. Auditor chair, $15 to $16. Auditor, $12.50 to $13.50. Lister chair, $15 to $16. Lister, $12.50 to $13.50. Road supervisor, $24 will remain the same at $24 an hour. Road crew, $17 will remain the same at $17 an hour. School building maintenance, $25 an hour will remain the same at $25 an hour. Additional non-budgeted actual rates, assistant town treasurer, $20 will stay $20. Assistant town treasurer, Samara, in parentheses, $19.75 will remain at $19.75. And the listers, Helen and Mike, $15 will remain at $15.
So
I
Doc,
would like,
can I clarify one thing? Sorry, now I realize as I'm looking through this that I made one mistake on my chart, which was I didn't intend to leave the Judy Alcampora line for assistant town treasurer under the first part of the table. My intention of this was to show that what was budgeted, which is the first section, and what was essentially planned for versus the additional non-budgeted ones that are at the bottom there. The situation with Judy, for instance, is something that came up after we had budgeted. So we decided as a board to compensate her at a higher rate than what we had budgeted for. Assistant town treasurer, we didn't envision a scenario where Samara would still be serving as an assistant town treasurer. So that's not, strictly speaking, something that was budgeted for. And then the lister situation, as we discussed, is a little different. We didn't anticipate all of the listers resigning and us being in the situation we ended up in. So the first line in the first section that has Judy's line shouldn't really be there. It's just potentially causes confusion. So sorry about that.
So
okay.
is it we're taking away the line that has $15 and then $16, or leaving Judy Eckenpour at 20 and 20 in that first?
Well, in the first block, all I'm saying is that's paying Judy Alcampora $20 was not actually budgeted last year or this year. I shouldn't have included it in the top part of that table.
Okay.
It's
I see what you're saying.
correctly included in the lower part of the table, the additional non-budgeted actual rates. I just inadvertently left it in the first one. So that's all. Sorry.
Okay. All right. All right, so I guess we need to, I'll make a motion, then we'll have a discussion, and then, all right, Stan, yes.
You wanted to vote it and then discuss it? Is that what you would like to do?
I think what we do is I make a motion, we get oh gosh. My mind is not working tonight. Make a motion to accept, to approve it. I get a second, any discussion, and then we'll vote. That's what it is. Okay.
Just,
All right. I'm going to. Guy, did you have a question?
yeah, just one quick question. Weren't all these pay raises and summaries and so forth approved at the town meeting level? I'm just wondering why we're voting on them again.
Well, I can address that. I mean, we did nothing during the budgeting session to increase people's pay rates as of July 1st. We budgeted for the intention to do that. And yes, the town voters approved the budget that is a part of. But to my mind, and I believe the way that this has always happened in the past, is that that doesn't constitute the board deciding to actually give the different positions those increases. So I think we as a board still need to decide, do we want to give these increases to these different positions, or what do we want to do about it? I mean, I think we intended to do it as a previous board, but for one thing, it's no longer the same board that decided to budget for those things back in December.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, I think you're correct. That if it was worked out as part of the budgeting, but now it's time to actually vote to apply those raises in the upcoming fiscal year, which can be done retroactively if there's a question. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the rate changes as noted, with the exception of the listers in the second part, to be determined by reviewing the minutes, and which case it may be retroactive. May I have a second for accepting the proposed rate changes?
A second.
Seconded by Gwen. Okay, any further discussion? Stan?
Yeah, two things. Is there a reason that the school building maintenance would be $1 an hour more than the road supervisor?
Go ahead, Dot. You can explain it.
Well, the school building maintenance, which in this case is Mark Bills, was a position that we felt was important to get someone to be reliable and on call. And so that position is, doesn't have that many hours, but the hours are valuable hours.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. And
Bruce?
and
Okay. Bruce?
Yes, I can just add, I don't think that when we considered the hourly rate for the school building maintenance, that we were even considering it in comparison to the road supervisor.
Stan?
Two things. Was back when I was on the board, and I'm not sure if Bruce was or not. I think Gwen was. When we had done this in 2013 or 14, I think we had looked at the pay scales statewide for the various positions. And I'm just curious, is that something that you might have done in this process as well, or no?
Yeah, I'll say I went through the latest version of the VLCT compensation manual back during our budget period and reviewed in a variety of ways what the sort of average and comparable rates were for comparable positions statewide. And I noted it at the time, and I'll note it again now. Generally speaking, and in fact, I would actually say in all cases, the rates that we're proposing increasing people to now are still probably below the state average, if anything. But given that we were trying to be both proactive and trying to increase rates as much as we could without going too far and increasing the budget by too much, I think I'd speak for the people who were on the board, two of whom are still here. At the time, we felt that this was a good step in the right direction, though it might not ultimately be as far as some of us would like to have gone. But it's, I'm very confident that all of these rates are very defendable as far as statewide averages are concerned, and if anything, on the low side.
Thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
The only other thing I would comment on is, I know Samara in the past has been the treasurer, and she's probably trained most of the people, and she's helped us out in dire circumstances. Is she in agreement with the 1975 versus the $20 for the assistant as a symbolicness to that? She's comfortable with that, or would she rather be on par with others at $20?
I mean, I'm gonna take a leap and speak to for Samara on this. I mean, we haven't directly discussed it, but Samara's intention was not, quite frankly, still to be an assistant treasurer at this point. Her goal was to no longer be doing any of the treasury work. And to the extent that she still is helping out is wonderful. And I think she's always expressed to me comfort in that she's comfortable still being compensated at that rate because she's not intending to do this for very long. But Guy and Gwen, have you had other conversations with Samara or have a view of how that stands?
No, basically that was Samara's intention, as you mentioned, and she was very happy. She just wanted to be basically there just to get it off the ground, and just that small compensation rate. She was very satisfied with that.
Mhm.
Thank you for explaining it. I just explain, I don't intend to be critical. David's explanation, and that's very, very, I appreciate the decision you made, having been in the same position 7-8 years ago, and that's what we had done then. And I wanted to be able, if I were asked outside on the street why this was this and this was that, as a part of the board, I just wanted to be able to explain it. So thank you all.
Mhm. I do have to say this. I would rather that we not name the people with the job title, only because it should say assistant treasurer level 1, assistant treasurer level 2, assistant treasurer level 3, if there are 3 different pay raises. Because if someone leaves and comes in, they may not get the level 3 pay that the previous person had and would get the level 1 pay. And so in this case, instead of saying level 1, we have people's names on here, but probably not the best way to do this. But it's very understandable, and we will, yes.
Right. And I mean, I think it's worth noting that we're not proposing changing anything about any of the specific people. However, we are proposing changing the rates for the positions themselves, understanding that as a group, we have made some choices to compensate some people in extreme circumstances differently than what our established rates are. I mean, I was not this as though this was exactly what would be put forth as what we're voting on. I'm giving you what the rates are and what the rates have been and how we got here. The other thing I want to note is that I've gone back while we're talking about this, and I'm looking at the minutes from the March 17th meeting, and it is very clear that we voted to compensate the listers, Mrs. Holt and Mr. Bills, at $15 an hour.
Okay,
That's what it says in the minutes for that
thank
meeting.
you. All right, I knew that there was some discussion about paying them more than maybe the previous list. I don't know, but I'm glad you saw them in the minutes. Then that makes sense then.
And again,
all right, any other
discussion? Yeah, sorry, but it's important to note again that what's been presented here in the top part of the form anyway is what we budgeted for. But as a board, that doesn't mean we are bound to set people's compensation at that rate. We can choose to set people's compensation at higher than what we budgeted, as long as we understand what the implications of that may be come the end of the fiscal year. So, like in the situation of the listers, it's worth noting that what we budgeted for to pay non-chair listers was $13.50. I'm not proposing that we change anything about the people who are serving as our listers now, but that's what was budgeted for.
That's probably what I was thinking of. I knew it was a different amount. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. I will like to modify my motion. And somebody can correct me if I'm doing this wrong. I'd like to change my motion that we compensate the Brookline town hourly employees as written on the form that I just read, including the listers at $15 an hour. And the reason why I'm doing a second motion was I was excluding the listers because I wanted to check the minutes back to March, and I didn't have a second computer to do that. So that's why I'm modifying my motion. So can I
I think
have
you
a-
just need to just get the approval of the person who seconded that motion. That they
Okay,
agree with the change that you've made to it.
all right, thanks, David. Gwen, I believe you seconded that motion.
I'm fine with that. I agree.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the Brookline Town hourly employee pay rates summary presented on the, as updated on 6/15/21, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. The motion passed unanimously. All right, now we're on to item C, the listers reappoint and discuss and vote the Helen Holt and Michael Bills as Brookline listers for 2021-2022 fiscal year. I only had one resident who showed any interest in being a lister for Brookline, but had no experience, and then shortly thereafter backed out saying, oh, I didn't realize the commitment and the learning. So hearing that we have no one else, Helen and Mike have been doing a very good job getting our grand list up to par. And I'm going to ask our town clerk if he could hear me. From all that I've seen and coming in, it appears that the job is being done very well, and that there's no hesitation on rehiring them for the rest of the fiscal year. Guy, is there anything that you'd like to add as a town clerk? Because you're in here more than I
No,
am.
quite frankly, I'm in agreement with what you just said. They're doing an excellent job. They have a great deal of experience. They're cleaning up a lot of errors and omissions which happen all the time. And I think they're in the right direction. And I'm very grateful, to be honest with you, that we have them.
Okay. All right, I'd like to, any other discussion? I'm going to make a motion.
Can I
Get a
just
second.
ask a quick
Yes.
question? I assume this
Sure.
is the case, but are we certain that Helen and Mike are happy to continue doing it for us?
I spoke with Helen and she said she would certainly stay on until March, but she hopes that the town is actively looking for someone to take on these positions going forward.
Great, thanks, Guy.
Mhm. Okay, any other discussion? All right, I'd like to make a motion that we hire or reappoint Helen Holt and Mike Bills as the Brookline listers for the 2021-2022 fiscal year, at least up through March, at which time I guess we'll have to,
I'll second.
okay. And is there a second? Understand any other discussion? Okay, all those in
Aye.
favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Okay. All right. All right, thank you very
Dot.
much. All
Dot,
right,
can I
item
just-
G. Yes, sir.
Sorry, can I just make a technical point? At various points, your feed is cutting out and slowing down. You guys who are both in the town office, if possible, one of you might want to shut off, Bruce, you might want to shut off your video at points, because I think you guys might be, your feed seems to be a problem at times.
Okay. Do you mind not being on TV and just being able to listen?
We minimize,
No, it means to
stop video.
stop video.
What'd you do
I don't know.
to me?
Yeah,
Okay,
all right. Okay.
so what does that do?
Well, it changes the amount of energy that the system is pulling off of the
Oh, so it
Wi-Fi.
just cut me off, so when I come in again, just put that back on.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, item D, discussion of holding hybrid Zoom select board meetings. I did speak with Angela Sanborn of the Newfane Select Board, and we talked about how they have a monitor and a camera in the room, and the select board members were meeting. Maybe one or two might call in and from home for various reasons, but the 24 or so residents who want to attend the Zoom meeting would show up on the monitor screen, and that they found that to be a very good system. I tried to call Juanetta up in Newfane and couldn't get an answer to her extension. I did email her asking if I could come in and take a look at the system, and I didn't get a response back, but I didn't call back several times. I didn't call back again. So that's still on my to-do list. But David, you're correct. You've been in there. Have you seen their setup in the office? I heard it's very nice.
I have not, no. I mean, I've just heard a little bit about it from some people who've attended some of their meetings. That's all. I don't actually know what they have as a setup.
Okay. Well, I will follow up on it again. I'll return this to the agenda for the next meeting, because by then I should have been able to get in there and find out. Now, they handle their communications through Brattleboro VCTV, whereas the division lines for us is Fact TV. So the Guy Tanza suggested that I contact Fact TV. Oh, there he is. That I contact Fact TV as well. Guy, did you want to say something?
Yes, I will get a hold of Fact TV because, quite frankly, we have all the equipment in place to create that same vision. And it's just a matter of Fact TV hooking us all up and so forth. So it's pretty easy to do. I'll find out if we need a bigger screen, or what we need. But basically, as I've said to you before, the camera that we've used before becomes the vehicle to project the meeting. So that's all. I've talked to Fact TV. It's just a matter of getting down and putting the equipment together. So I think it's a very doable thing.
All right, excellent. Well, I'll put it on the agenda. Stan, you'd like to say something? Stan, you have to put your mute.
Yeah, just adding to the conversation information. In last night's planning seminar through VLCT, the fellow that was orchestrating it mentioned that it's his understanding that for this hybrid kind of thing, the minimum requirement is that one live person be at the location designated by the entity, in this case, the town, and the rest can be at home. So, for numbers breakdown as to how people might feel comfortable doing this, that's what I heard last night. I haven't checked it or anything.
No, that's what I've been made aware of as well. One person should be at the physical place. And I was coming tonight because of the dog noise, and I asked Bruce if he would come down too. So maybe we could rotate something. A lock in.
I don't mind coming in.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. Item E, so we'll follow up on that. Item E, set the tax rate for 2021, 2022. We did not get, and I sent to the treasurer as a reminder, a tax rate to vote on this evening, which probably means that the state or the school, the state of the school funding has not been established. When it does come in, if it's in between meetings, we'll have to hold another special meeting to get that vote done, get the vote done. But I'll let you know as soon as I find out when those numbers arrive. Okay. So, okay. Any questions about that? Move on to item G. I noticed down the baseball field, that the fencing is in need of repair. I also, right when Mark was doing the over the rail mowing, and we had said maybe it would be a good idea to get in and get that knotweed down, I noticed that it was really climbing over the scoreboard. And before the end of the week, the scoreboard is gone. So I'm assuming that the weeds ate the scoreboard. It's fallen down. I would like to have that scoreboard brought in. There's room in our basement to store it right now. And keep it there and hire someone to fix the fencing. What do we do for those kinds of maintenance things? Any suggestions from the select board?
Hmm.
All right, Stan. Stan, are you on a cruise?
Well, I'm sitting here at the top of Cadillac Mountain in Acadia National Park,
Ah,
and I'm
okay.
looking down at the boat that the town has just bought for select board to go for cruises over
Okay,
my left shoulder.
very nice,
Only select board members are allowed.
very nice.
But no, I'm not on vacation. Actually, I'm facetiously commenting. I went down after looking at this email this morning and got out of the car. And the problem is if you want to limit it to the least expensive route possible, those three posts that are leaning are actually broken off approximately 4 to 5 inches below grade. All of the others across that area are solid. I shook them and they didn't move, but those three that are tilted did move. And when I gave a little extra push and pushed them back toward the center of the road, you could see where they were broken off. So conceivably, if there was a volunteer, we could buy 3 posts and with a post hole digger in 3 hours, have it done at minimal cost. But on the other hand, if the vote's to have it repaired, then you'd be paying labor and other things. The cross members appear to be, they're aged like the rest of them. But I didn't note that they were deteriorated, any of them, to the point where they were structurally unfit for the role they're playing.
Okay,
Bruce is volunteering to dig the holes right now.
okay. Bruce, did you want to say something?
Just wanted to
You
know.
get to unmute
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to note there's a 4x4, a long one in the, I don't know how high that post has to be, Stan, but there's a long 4x4 right underneath that where I sit in the basement.
Okay, I think what I can do for this is, David?
I'll just say that I'm willing to help with labor to fix it. I just dug a bunch of post holes of my own a couple of weeks ago, so I am in the mode. So I mean, if someone knows, I'm not going to claim to know what the best way to go about repairing it will be, but I'm happy to be a set of hands and somebody to help work if Stan and or Bruce can figure out what we should do. I'm happy to provide labor to help do it.
Okay, Stan?
Yeah, when I moved the posts to determine whether they were in fact just needing to be shored up by packing the ground around them, it was a relief to see no stones, no rocks immediately around those posts. So it's, obviously you never know till you actually dig it, but it looked like it's a pretty soft field type soil that's there. Doesn't appear to be rocks down around those posts to hold them in. So it should be a regular quick thing, I would think. I almost called Wayside Fencing in Brattleboro to get a quote of a cost per post this morning, but I thought I'd talk to you and bring it up first, because if you had other plans, and certainly I didn't want to expend that time, but I'm willing to chip in and do it. And I noticed there's another fence place in Newfane. I've never heard of it, but it's in the yellow pages. So there's 2 options to check pricing on.
Excellent. All right. Bruce, you wanted to say something?
Sure. First off, Stan, do you know how much footage is needed for the post? Because we have that 4x4 in the basement, pressure treated, that we could use.
Well, I was assuming that, how long is the 4x4?
I didn't measure it, but I'm guessing at least 8 feet. Might even be a 10-footer.
Is it natural wood or is it pressure treated wood?
No, it's PT, it's pressure treated.
I would throw this out. It's just my feeling on it. I would much rather have something that is of similar type wood, so that as it ages, it will blend in with the rest of the fence, as opposed to having a different amount of moss on it and or a discoloration that stands out. I think they can't be that expensive. It's something that's probably 6 feet. So you got 18 to 24 inches below grade and approximately 4 feet up. And those 2 oblong holes in each one, 2 holes in each one, get 3 of them. I can't imagine they'd be more than, just throwing out a guess, 35 to $50 each.
You mean 35 each
Each.
to 50 each? Yes, like I was going to say the price of wood is quite high.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to suggest that I put it out on a listserv to see if we had some town volunteers, but if we have 3.5, I can help too. I'll bring lunch. Select board members
I love
that will do that repair. That would be great. Gwen, you going to bring drinks?
No, I don't drink. I believe, and you can check, but I think Peter Meyer said that he was willing to help too. But you need to check with him, but I'm pretty sure he volunteered to help with the fence.
Okay, I haven't heard anything from Peter Meyer. He did fix the fence a couple of years ago when I was on the board. There was things there that we paid for and he fixed, but you mean what, we can reach out for him for a 4th set of hands? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's an idea that the team can decide on if they need another set of hands. Bruce, you wanted to say?
Yeah, just last thing. Most likely that once we start digging, we're gonna get down a foot or so. We're gonna probably hit sand. So I don't project to see that each one of these holes isn't gonna take more than 10 or 15 minutes to dig. You'll probably more have a hard time with supporting it to make sure it's in solid. But I put $20 on it to guess that once you get down a foot, you're gonna hit solid sand.
All right, well, excellent. I think that would be something that could be done before the next, this summer. That would be great. I think having that fence stand uprighted and it would be great. All right, well, we'll check on it, let me know what goes on during the week and reach out. Let me know what day you're going to be there working on it. If I can come, I will come as well.
I just need to clarify what you're saying. I feel awkward. Again, I don't want to interface or take over Bruce's role as
No.
so as his function and title demand. So I don't know whether, I feel awkward even bringing up my suggestion, but on the other hand, I know Bruce is willing to save the town money and that's fantastic of him and he's open-minded. So if, either Bruce or I'd be happy to call tomorrow, Friday, those 2 fence locations and find out what the cost would be and measure the existing posts so that I have something to quote them or at least give to Bruce to quote if he wants to call. So you're saying that you want the job done before the next meeting or a resolution as to how we're going to approach it by the next meeting?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to put the time. Sometime this summer, if we can get that done sooner rather than later, that would be great. And Stan, if you want to make the phone calls, Bruce, I'm just saying that's fine. If you want to make the phone calls and then communicate via email what's going on with us, that's certainly not. That would be fabulous. I appreciate getting that done as well. I'll have to say, the teamwork that the select board shows is very moving. So I appreciate that. I'm sure the community does as well. So again, another project, well done, to be done. Well done.
Quick question.
Okay,
Dot.
thank you.
I think Guy is offering to bring drinks.
Okay, what, Guy?
Yeah, why don't you bring Mark into the conversation and see if he has any ideas?
Oh, not a bad idea.
Hi, Mark, you there? Can you hear us? Mark? You have to unmute yourself. You must have put the phone down.
Here he is.
Oh, there he is.
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I was thinking maybe check with WW Building Supplies to see what they have to offer for the matching post for those split rail fences. If you could get one local, maybe 3 of them, and if it's something that I could do for the town, I'd be glad to install them. but you know, I guess the best thing is probably call first and get some pricing on the fence post, and if that's something you would want me to do, I'd be glad to do it. Installation.
All right, very good.
Everybody's shaking their head.
Yep. So we'll just communicate with each other and stay in the loop. Great.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I'm going to move on down to the next item. We received in the mail a contract from Coda and Coda, the annual contract from Coda and Coda for their at-office program for 2021-2022. And I didn't mean to be confusing on the form, but they give you different options. And before we go through the options which are listed on the agenda, I'm going to ask Mr. Tanza, Guy, what has been done in the past regarding this particular type of contract for the heating system and the fuel for town hall?
To be honest with you, Dot, basically some of the reasons that we didn't use the prepaid program is that fuel oil is so volatile that it's really difficult to judge what we're going to pay. It seems to be working out that we pay as we go. And another issue was that did we budget that money into the budget, you know, for a prepay? I don't know. Quite honestly, the way we've been going, it seems to be advantageous for the town because of, like I say, the volatility of the market.
So what you're saying, Guy, is that you did not cap any of the price options, that you did payment due in 30 days, no price protection fee. That cost is $435 a year. But I do believe that gives us on-call repair service for emergencies.
Okay,
Is that
are we talking about the prepaid fuel, or are we talking about the contract, the furnace contract?
It actually appears to be all on the same plan. It does say here, it has capped price, capped budget option, flex option. The flex option, it says payments due net 30, no price protection fee, and it says current balance $435.
Okay, all that there is a prepaid program. We've already signed up for the furnace program, you know, that makes sure that we have on-call service in the event there's a failure of the furnace. What you're talking about right now is a prepaid option, and we've never exercised that in the 10 years that I've been here. So only because it's just so volatile.
Guy, so is it, in the past, we have not done the prepay option, so this mail that came in, this contract for prepaying is not something that we'll participate in, and I'll share that with the treasurers then. Guy?
I'm sorry, what was that, Dot?
You're breaking up.
You were breaking up a
I
little bit.
saw that, yeah. So I'm saying what I got in the mail for the prepaid options are not something we're going to participate with. So there's no contract for me to sign or hand back in. Correct?
That was Samara and my opinion, based upon, you know, the usage that we use and so forth. It seemed to make sense to us.
Okay. Is there anyone on, thank you, Guy. Is there anyone on the select board that would like to change the way that we're doing the purchasing of fuel going forward, or stay with status quo? Status quo. Okay. Any objections? All right. Well, thank you. That's status quo. That takes care of that one. The next item that I wanted to point out is that we got a letter from Triple T Trucking, and you see that their monthly swap out fee is going to increase by $13 per swap out. Nothing we can do about it. I just thought it needed to be brought to your attention. David?
Yeah, it's worth noting that it's not a monthly fee. That's the fee they charge every time we call them to swap out containers.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
So it's more likely that it's 4 to 5 times a month.
Yes,
Oh,
it's $13 per. Oh, I see how I miswrote that. Thank you. It's the actual swap out fee. Each swap out fee is increasing by $13. I'm sorry if I misled you. That's what I thought I had written, but
That's okay. No, I just wanted to clarify that. The good
Perfect.
thing about that is
it's only $13.
Oh,
although it's 13 times each time they come. I mean, over the course of a year, that's potentially another $650, $700, something like that. I mean, in the scheme of how costs fluctuate with that service, this isn't a huge hit in comparison to when the processing fee skyrockets or something. That has much more of an impact because that's based on the ton, and this is, we have a fairly confined number of times that they're going to pick up the bins. But yeah, that is an increase. That's going to be an increase in cost, certainly.
Okay. Yep. All right, excellent. Well, thank you. All right, so anything else? I guess that's it for the new business. Now we'll enter into old business. First item under old business is the Preservation Trust grant of $5,000 for the Round Schoolhouse. We have a revised scope of work and a cost estimate, including the necessary paperwork for the Preservation Trust of Vermont for approval. Completion date August 1st, 2021. Mr. Noga, I'm going to give you the microphone. You've done a lot of work and provided the select board with a very professional presentation for the Vermont Preservation Trust that we'll be sending in, but I'll give you a few minutes to talk about what you've accomplished.
Oh, yeah. It's been an interesting experience, and I want to thank the Historical Commission for allowing us to assist them in this process, so that it could come to be, and also the board members here tonight for the willingness to help out. I mean, it is on the national list of historic places, and it obviously does need the work that was that we presented to them. And when I got a package together and sent it to when we were at the building, Joe had mentioned possibly sending it to PVT, Preservation Trust of Vermont, before our vote tonight, in an attempt to find out what their thoughts were on the format of the materials presented was, and also if the process itself that the vendors were going to utilize were acceptable, materials were acceptable and such. So we'd have a little bit of a knowledge and heads up from PVT, so that we voted hopefully on something that might have been amended, as in fact occurred. It seems that, just as there was some going back and forth last minute. There was some contact made with Mr. Parker, because apparently the plan with the Historic Commission was to have a patch put in of pressure treated wood. And when they saw that, they wanted to know why the group, us and the commission, decided to use pressure treated wood, and explain why we chose not to use or go along with their philosophy of like materials, like size, etc. And she wanted to even know what kind of stone we were going to build that north wall up with, and or if the west wall needed foundation repair, what and where we were getting the stone. And as it turns out, when you walk around the site, and Joe pointed this out as well, there are stone inside in corners and some loose stone that's fallen over the years, and there's stone that could be taken from behind the building itself. So there should be no need for expenditure. It'll blend in very nicely. And they were curious to know the details of the width and depth of the replacement beams and the woods that were going to be used. It's obvious to me that the woods on the sill and in the siding are some kind of hardwood. It is not pine. As to the specific species that it is, I do not know. But I did measure the beam that is currently there that's going to be the sill on the north wall. It is exactly the size of what currently is the sill on the west wall. So I put that into the revised package, which you have a copy of. I contacted Chris Parker and said, they want the same wood. We can't use the pressure treated. I assume they're going to also want it spliced in with wooden pegs, as is currently the case for the existing splice on the rear wall, which is where the rod is, by the way. And I emailed him and he was back to me within an hour. I then felt comfortable not modifying the verbiage in the package that I had created for presentation to you and PVT. And I sent that back to Lisa Ryan, who emailed me late morning on Tuesday. And whatever she asked for, I got back to her within the hour. I stressed to her that it's the interest of the community to get it done as quickly as possible. And that we were serious about doing it, that we've stressed a deadline of August 1st, and that we've also brought up with the vendors the need to have their invoices in time to meet that deadline. As we exchanged emails and the day went on and found ourselves getting back to each other pretty quickly, the finalization came together very nicely. I had asked her, how was this payout going to happen? In some routes, they'll expect the town to have a account dedicated for that in the amount of the grant, and they expect the town to pay the money out, and then they will reimburse, assuming they approve it, what was done. We might approve it, but they might not. They'll issue the checks to reimburse us. That's one route. The route that they're utilizing here is that apparently, she seemed extremely easy at that point in the afternoon. She said, look, when you get the project done, send us a copy of the invoice and give us the address of the party to whom you want the checks sent, and we'll send them. So, at that point, it was as easy as it seemed. All the fingers were coming together in a nice joining venture, a nice handshake. And it looks like if the work is done on time, we will have no problems. And it looks like we've got vendors that appears at this point that are willing to do what it takes to make this happen and be approved. So, and I said, to whom should I send the package? Because I was also copying Ben, the president, because his letter in March came from him, didn't come from Lisa. And I wanted both of them to know that we wanted to be communicative and helpful and thorough as we could be. I realized that by mid-afternoon, Ben apparently decided he didn't need to talk to us. He had Lisa do the conversation and the contact. That's what it appeared like to me, because I never got a thing from Ben. And I respect that. He's probably got other things to do. And also from a politics kind of thing, I noticed that the president of the head trustee is, I believe, Linda Papazian from Putney. So for him to send a letter down to us like that, with her being an abutting town resident, president of that organization said to me that there was some serious thought by PVT before they sent that letter. I mean, it just on the surface looks that way. I hope I'm not mischaracterizing it, but that was one of the things that went through my mind is, oh boy. So in any event, it looks like we're all set. She said, and I said to her, do you or Ben want, or both of you want a copy of the package that we're going to execute in expressing our approval of the plan and program and the relationship that we have and the vendor agreements that we have. She says, she wrote back to me, Stan, you don't need to do that. For your own records, if you need it, keep it, but don't bother sending it. We're fine. So that's come together very nicely, and I'm glad that we're all a part of that.
Excellent, very good. Thank you, Stan. Bruce, you wanted to say something and then,
Yeah, two things. If I did my numbers right, we're using about 4,500 of the $5,000, correct, Stan? You're shaking your head, yes. Was there been any consideration of doing anything with the sign as a part of that, or is that something we can't include?
Um, I asked Joe about that, and it was not a priority for them, and I didn't want to go out on a limb, and given the rush that we happen to have here, and I must say that the painting bid was a little on the unclear side. I think Dot called them on a Sunday night. I called them on a Monday night. On the phone, it was not a conversation that I felt extremely confident of as regards time frame. To be quite frank, the first response I got when I asked, when will it be done? The comment was, quote unquote, by the end of the year. I indicated that this is a project that is funded by the Preservation Trust of Vermont, and there is a deadline of August 1st. And is it something that you think can be done? And the comment was, we'll try. I think at that point, you and I exchanged an email about what I had just experienced. And we, I think, sensed that there needed to be something in writing that was sent by us from our end. And we did that. In bold print, and I think I may have sent all of you a copy of this email. I indicated that in no uncertain terms, it needed to be done by the 1st of August, among other things in that letter. And by the way, at that 8:08 conversation AM Monday, I had asked Mr. Holden, since we hadn't received anything, I had not received anything, you had not received anything, and Joe had not received any notice from Mr. Holden. He indicated that he had mailed it to the Historic Preservation over a week before my phone call Monday morning. So I promptly notified Joe of that, and then later that morning, Mr. Holden sent me, in response to my email to him saying we needed a response, yes or no. He wrote in a one sentence, 2-line comment, I will do the job and I'll have it done by August 1st. That simple as that. Didn't have his letterhead or anything. So later that afternoon, after I had notified Joe of no formal letterhead or anything of that nature, I believe, if my mind is not failing me, that either late that night or very early the next morning, I received from Joe the estimate that Mr. Holden had sent on his letterhead, signed, etc., that's in this package. So we now had a full package that we could justifiably send along for their perusal and our formal approval tonight. So I'm hopeful that part of the process will come to be. And frankly, at that point, to answer your question, Bruce, I didn't know if I wanted to be messing around with a painter who was having difficulty committing himself to the main job, never mind inserting a sign painting job on top of that. And looking at perhaps, since we're probably going to have somewhere around 500 left over. No, we have to use, we can only use what we've submitted for the package. So we're going to lose that money, unfortunately. It's sad to say. I wished it hadn't resulted in that, but that's the way it is. So I hope that answers your question, Bruce. I'm sorry to take so long to explain that.
Yeah, that's okay, Stan. I mean, we're not going to kick a gift horse in the mouth. I mean, again, $5,000, we use 4,500 of it. I'm a happy camper. I hope everybody else is. What I wanted to point attention to, I wanted to bring Mark in, see if he had anything to say about the lumber issue, because he and I had spoken about it, especially with that large beam that you had gifted many years ago, Mark. So I wanted to know, I'm sure you listened to everything that was said here. If you have any comments or you want to pipe into the use of the materials.
Yes, I agree with trying to restore the preservation of the building as close to as historical as we can. And when I knew that the beam needed replacing, I purposely got the type of wood needed, and it was also weathered to blend in when I dropped the beam off. And so, knowing that the process is coming around to do this restoration, I do have aged lumber, which I would be glad to donate to the repairs to that side shed on the round schoolhouse. If somebody would be willing to do the building of the repairs. I'm not sure if I'm answering, your exact question. You can get back to me.
You did good. Wasn't expecting you to contribute more lumber, but that would change everything a little bit in terms of with David Parker, correct? Stan?
Yeah, I specifically, I'll say one other thing. At the time I met the Historic Commission at the Round Schoolhouse, the details of what were going to be done appeared to be extremely general. If I were involved from day one, I would probably have asked for the rear west wall to be rebuilt, because a lot of that has fallen down. And it's not befitting of the building to be that way. In a way, I personally feel that way. However, it appears to have been a decision that was made by the commission. And the comment that old houses, well, they're not all supported evenly across sills. They're only supported in 2 or 3 places along a run, was the comments that arose. And so if you look closely at the photos on the west wall, you'll see there are places it's not touching. And I guess and my understanding from Joe and the way Chris Parker responded to my concerns indicated that his role was to rebuild that north wall. I wasn't sure at the time how much wood he was going to put into this, because when I asked, is the contractor supplying the wood, the response that I got was, well, so-and-so and so-and-so has wood mills and they can cut the wood. I didn't know how to take that. So, and I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. It's not necessary. However, in my conversation Tuesday afternoon with Mr. Parker, he did confirm he intends to place siding wherever it is needed. And when you walk around the back side of the building, you become very much aware there's more needed than what appears to be needed from inside by simply looking at it inside. So that day upon of my inspection, I had figured 11 boards were needed. After re-inspecting it yesterday, I suspect that number would possibly be doubled. And you'll note that in Mr. Parker's estimate, he basically said at least $3,000. He did not say it will be $3,000. When I asked him if the patch, when it changes from pressure treated to now be done with similar type wood and wood pegging. I emailed him that question because I wanted to email it and get it back in email format. So it simply wasn't he said and he said. He indicated that he would put that wooden patch in, and it would be no additional cost. So I think in that regard, if it is much over $3,000, I can't imagine it would be much.
All right, perfect. Well, I was thinking that the $500 is like a little 10% leeway in case there is a little bit of overage, and that might be
Yeah.
understandable. Is it the board's pleasure that I contact the two vendors, or Stan, would you like to contact after we vote to approve this, that they can commence with their work as soon as possible? And do they need to, who starts, does one have to start before the other, or can they work simultaneously?
The two jobs are completely distinct. So they can work at the same time, different times. There's no correlation between those two roles. And I think you're on the right line of doing it as soon as possible to be as fair as possible to them, since they have obviously, to some
Okay.
extent, one way committed to finishing this by August 1st. The sooner they know, the better they can plan this in with whatever other jobs they may have.
All right, so what I'm going to do, if it's all right with you, Stan, as a select board chair, after we go through this procedure, I will email both gentlemen tomorrow with the go-ahead, and if they have any questions, they can contact me, and I'll probably contact you then. But thank you again for all the work that you did in putting this together. So at this point, any other comments before we will I'll make a motion that we approve the work to be done at the Brookline Round Schoolhouse as presented in the scope of work project to be completed by August 1st, 2021. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Bruce. Any other discussion?
I just want to point out that you should feel very comfortable in contacting them, because I indicated not to hurt Joe or Doug, but that Doug had said to me specifically he was probably not going to be able to attend a select board meeting for a couple of months. He's working 7 in the morning, 7 at night, and he's way tired. And I don't know how many, I assume it's 7 days a week. I didn't ask him. And he actually said, you know, if you could help out on this, we'd really like that. So
I will see
about that. But when I emailed the vendors, I said the points of contact is Dot Maggio, selectman, and myself, select board member, if they needed anything in an emergency. So go for it.
All right, well, thank you. So we've had a motion and a second and a discussion. All those in favor of approving the Brookline Round Schoolhouse scope of work as presented in the project description by August 1st, 2020, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much. I will follow through on that. That's good. All right, we're going to move along to the next item under old business, the Wyndham Solid Waste Management District vacancy. I did put out a listserv, and we had Daniel Towler, who has offered to be the Brookline representative for us at the Wyndham Solid Waste. Is there, and I think he reached out to you, David, didn't he? He spoke with you a little bit?
He did, yeah. Yeah, we talked a little bit about it.
And he was planning on going or zooming in on the last week's meeting. So he was the only person who responded to the particular listserv. So I'd like to make a motion that the select board appoint Daniel Towler as the Brookline representative to the WSWMD vacancy board. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by David. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of appointing Daniel Towler to the vacancy for the Wyndham Solid Waste Management District signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. So we got another volunteer, David. Danny's a very hard worker, so that he'll let us know what goes on in town at those meetings if need be. All right, moving on to the next vacancy. We had a vacancy we talked about last meeting, the Deerfield Valley Fiber. We talked about reconsideration, discussion, and vote, reconsideration of joining because of the need to have a representative, and David found it be difficult with all the different meetings. When I put out the listserv memo, Marjorie Ray, she's a web developer, and her name is Code Writer. She has offered to be the Brookline representative. She actually has designed the website for them and another area, District Union. And so she's going to be sort of familiar with it. She said she would give it a try. She's interested. And I just thought if there's anybody else who had any other comments, if not, I will make a motion to approve her. Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Marjorie Ray as the Brookline representative to the DV Fiber Union District. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bruce. Any further discussion?
I just say this is where, can I just say this is where Bruce, you need to be muted. Yeah, because otherwise it's echoing a lot for us when she's making the motions. Thanks.
I am going to send to her or email to her some of the paperwork that I had gotten. And David, if you don't mind, I might ask her if she has to reach out a specific questions. I don't think she has any. She says like she knows what she can do and can't do in the program, but I just thought that if she wanted to talk to somebody, I don't know, about the program, you knew more than I do.
Sure, she can. I mean, if she wants to. I mean, literally what I know about it is what I have
you've read
on the website that she designed. But you know, if she has other, I'm happy to try to answer something if she has something.
Okay. Well, I told her she didn't have to attend select board meetings. That's what she was concerned about and such. But I'll let them know. I'll let both Daniel and Marjorie know. So I'd like to make a motion to. We did make a motion for a discussion. So all those in favor of appointing Marjorie Ray as the Brookline representative to the DV Fiber signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, I shall contact Marjorie and Dan. I love volunteers. Very good. Last but not least, under old business, the Brookline school records at Town Hall. The basement clean out did not uncover any particular student records. There were records of insurance policies and purchase orders and notes and things of that sort. Nothing that had student related was in the basement that was thrown out. So that was something we can cross off. Okay, next we're going to go into summary. Oh, look, we're early. It's not even 8 o'clock. Summary updates and reports. Town Clerk Guy Tanza, you're on.
Thanks, Dot. I just want to thank everybody for the incredible efforts to clean the town office up. It really looks great. There was a lot more than I really thought there was. And between everybody that helped, we got it done, and it looks really absolutely great. As I said to Bruce, I'm going to see if some of those funds that we've spent for mouse removal and so forth, if I can get them into my $5,000 grant with the elections division. You know, there's a lot of leeway there, and if it's for the benefit of the voters and so forth, I may be able to slide that in. But at any rate, thank you for all your help. And as far as the office itself, we've been busy. As we all know, the governor has undeclared the emergency, and we're back to normal, so to speak. There's a few things that may have to be addressed, but the office itself, I've decided to open up the office as we had before to the public. And as far as meetings and so forth, that will be a determination made by the select board. But the town office for the town clerk is open as usual. And now I just want to remind people that our dog licenses. I think we have 85 of them we've sold. There's quite a few that haven't been sold yet, and hopefully people will step up and do that. Our delinquent taxes are just about $12,000. I'm hoping to diminish that amount before the end of the July effort, and hopefully we'll be in better shape. In fact, I think, quite honestly, given all that's happened in the last year, I think the town has done very well. And I want to thank the residents for realizing their responsibility and doing what they had to do. So that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you guys very much. Moving on to my little report, treasurer presentation has again been moved back to July 7th, 2021. However, the select board will discuss any changes that may be incorporated into the way the budget reports are organized. And I think we're not, there can be some upgrades to the way the budget reports are organized. I'm going to quickly go through some things orally, but I will write this out and I will email to all of the select board members what I'm pretty much going to summarize now. And if you have any other items that you would like to see this treasurer change or modify going forward, then you can add to that. I would like the treasurers to have the information before they do their presentation so that they can address the concerns. There was some concerns about how the school taxes are incorporated into our budgetary line items. There's also questions about how some of the summer and winter highway funds have been recorded. There may have been some winter funds, some summer funds placed in the winter categories, which makes it appear that we were way over budget. We need to take a look at how some of the highway funding was recorded. We also, I noted that there was some question about maintenance. We have 5 ancient cemeteries. 4 of them, Cynthia now takes care of the one that is in her property, but the other 4 cemeteries are cleaned up twice a year, maybe sometimes the 3rd time if need be, beginning before Memorial Day and after Labor Day. However, the budget line item appears not to have been touched, so I'm thinking that the treasurer has been taking the funds to pay those bills from another account. So that has to be straightened out and clarified. So those are the things that I particularly saw. And I just think that if that would be cleared up, I think there is 60 days after June 30th that any of these alterations can be made. And going forward, if we could have the budget line items clarified, set up a little bit differently, it would be easier for us to follow and read. Not to say that I know the budget inside and out, but I have spent time with it. Guy Tanza spent some time with it. I spent some time with Judy with it, and I've talked to Samara and Mike a little bit about it as well. So so expect from me something about the treasurer's reporting, and again, we can talk about it when they make their presentation next month. Okay, anybody else want to comment on that item? No? All right, moving on. All right, very good. ACO report. Very quickly, a stray dog was found near a resident's house. The resident took care of the dog until the following day when the dog's owner was identified. I will visit that dog owner because I don't believe the dog what appears to be registered last year or this year, of course. So I'll follow up on that. I do want to make a note that I found out on Facebook is that the Wyndham County Sheriff's Office is hiring an animal control officer that will be responsible for stray animals, vicious animals, animal control, and Putney. I think there's a 4th town. I am going to call them up and just find out how this is. I think it's going to start July 1st. They're going to hire somebody on. I'm just curious about what the contract reads like, because it might be something Brookline would do. While I love animals, sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking for me to go out and I'm picking up dogs on my own. So just wanted to let you know I'll add that to the agenda, what I find out about the animal control officer for Wyndham County Sheriff's Office. Okay, item number 3, Town Health Officer report. We did receive a complaint due to the logging going on behind a resident's home. It was investigated. Several phone calls were made and an inspection. A spring-fed pond and a well were contaminated by soil eroded by heavy equipment crossing over a brook. I called up Sosamo Lumber. The logging procedure was stopped. An inspection occurred. They built a temporary bridge over the brook. The following day, we went and did a second inspection, and the resident and Sosamo Lumber representative found that the water was already clearing up, and that resident hasn't called back to say that problem has continued. So that means that it has improved. I'd like to thank Mark Bills for reaching out to me. I know it was hard to reach that day. That was the same day we were cleaning up the basement. So Mark also talked to the resident and put her at ease and gave me some information as far as who to contact. So I just added that to my list, but that's that part of the report. On item number 4, the work bee of the select board members emptied the basement of the town hall on Thursday, June 10th. Over 800 pounds of paper were removed. And again, it was a Herculean task and much appreciated. It really does make a big difference. And I can't be prouder of the people that I work with here in the select board. I think it's a lot. It's very rewarding. That's what makes it all worthwhile. So thank you again. Yesterday afternoon, Town Hall office was cleaned on Monday, the 14th of June. And I was here to let in David LeBlanc, who owns Green Mountain, what's the name of his company?
Green Mountain Carpet Cleaning.
Oh, Green Mountain Carpet Cleaning. He gave us the afternoon because he doesn't live there. He lives down the road from us here in town. He said the office was clean. It was just very, very dusty. He did the inside windows. He did a nice job. And I know Guy and Gwen, you keep a very clean office, but we don't want you to have to be scrubbing down things going forward. So it might be something the select board might want to continue on a monthly or every other month service. It's something to think about.
Scott, can you put that on the agenda for next time? We can discuss that.
Okay, so I'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting, office cleaning. Okay. Schoolhouse schedule. All right, we're going to continue on, round schoolhouse cleaning. Oh, because we were concerned we weren't getting information or getting ServPro getting back to us, I asked David about the round schoolhouse after all is said and done and the buildings are worked on and the windows are repaired and such, if he would consider coming in and doing a deep cleaning on the building. And he said yes, however, he's booked till August 15th. So I booked him for August 16th. If the select board decides not to go with him, then that's one thing. But otherwise, it's difficult to get someone to come in and clean. So that's what I scheduled. That's okay. And his rate is $40 an hour, which was quite reasonable, I thought. All right, anything else for any of the items that I just talked about? No. All right. If not, we'll move on to Mr. Everett Mark Bills, Highways and Road Supervisor report. Thank you, Mark. You're on.
Okay, thank you. Since the last time I talked to the board at a meeting, I have spent a 40-hour week with a rental over-the-rail mowing machine to go around town and mow our roadsides, and that was accomplished. And as I was passing through mowing, I realized that each year that we've mowed this early, some of our invasive species plants are dissipating very heavily, to the point where barely noticed any of the poison parsnip that was slowly creeping down our roadsides. So I think mowing early in the season is a great thing. And also, I've been talking with Jeff Nugent from Wyndham Regional, and he is the contact for road grants. And we are making a plan to meet to go over this new fiscal year's road segments to talk about which grants we want to apply for, which segments. So that is in the works. I also got information, some from DOT, some emails from the state of Vermont. There's been new tree warden laws and regulations passed, and I intend to go to some classes to learn these new laws. And I know that there's some coming up I won't be able to get to, but there's going to be 3 different occasions to go to these classes, which I intend to do so. I also been checking the roads. Over the next week or so, I'll be taking the grader out to do some fresh scraping of some of the gravel roads that are starting to get some good potholing. So I'll be spending some time over the next couple of weeks freshening the roads up. I have spent time and have all my labor reports, labor logs is all sent in so that the treasurer can go through those and see where we're at with the budget. I believe that on my estimations, I feel like my town budget for my labor is right at its peak, that I think we're coming out right on schedule for labor. And materials, I'm still unsure where we're at because of how the winter gravels were mixed in with summer gravel reports, vice versa. So I think we're in pretty good shape for the rest of this fiscal year with, another week or 2 of scraping will bring us through the new fiscal year more or less on schedule. And I've been talking with Archie Clark about potential road work for the new fiscal year. We're still, I'm bringing up some points and just it's conversation, but as we figure out where we're headed, I will gladly fill in the select board with my intentions. And I guess that is it for my spiel.
Well, thank you, Mark. And I know your time is short in the summer because of all the work that you do, but I'm glad that you'll be taking some of those new tree warden legal courses. That's great.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I really have a lot of questions, and it would be great to just get some clarification. Everything in the past is the laws and regulations were very vague, and I did attend some tree warden meetings years ago. I had to go clear to Colchester, Vermont, and I did learn a lot, but I know that things have changed over the years, and so I'm excited to go and see how the tree warden laws stand nowadays.
Okay, perfect. Much
Ma-
appreciated.
Can I ask a question?
Guy, go ahead, Guy.
Hi, Mark, I just want to ask a question because, and I don't want this to be misinterpreted as something derogative because I think you're doing an excellent job. But you know, with climate change and things changing, mud seasons now are not 1, but 2, 3, and 4. And I'm just curious, the material that you put down, there's been some people who are concerned saying that like if we get a rain or something, it gets really muddy. The material that you're using, is there any kind of different gravel that you're using or something that's a little different that you're doing? Because it seems like when we get a little rain or actually, you know, these downpours, it gets pretty muddy pretty quickly, almost like a mud season. Could you just explain that to me?
Well, my only personal explanation for that is throughout those winter and spring months when we were applying material, it was straight crushed stone. And that crushed stone is less mud. And at the time of its need, it creates like a snowshoe effect over the mud. So we just kept applying this crushed stone and to the point where it held the vehicles up on top. And so each year, as we apply that crushed stone, it's gonna help in the future years. Just building this thick, coarse layer of stone to hold vehicles up, and I've already seen the difference myself. But you know, after mud season comes and goes, there's areas where heavy traffic drives on this crushed stone, and the areas where the water content is heavy under the road, the crushed stone more or less disappears into the ground. And, you know, as time goes on, that'll firm up. So basically, the areas that don't smooth out, that the crushed stone has like come to its maximum potential, we then applied some fine road gravel with a lot more fines in the gravel, more sand, grit, you know, not as much stone. So that stone, that gravel that we applied is, it's fresh. And as soon as we start getting the rains, I realize it gets a little mucky, but as that tightens up, it'll take a couple of rainstorms for that to spread itself out, and then it'll compact. So I realized that as soon after we apply it, it turns to mud, but it's because of the compaction. And throughout the summer, that'll totally firm up. So that's basically my answer for that.
All right, well, I appreciate that. And that crushed stone that you're putting down, was that 3/4 inch gravel stone that you put in?
I tried to use all 3/4 inch. I did end up getting, some of it was 1.5 inches, some that we had in our stockpile at the town garage. So some of it was a little bit bigger, which the bigger stone actually floats, I'm going to say, holds up a vehicle better. But I like the 3/4 stone because it blends in nicely. You know, and when you're grading, the finer the stone in the gravel, the nicer it lays out when you're grading the road. So I did have a mix, but only because of the problem of getting the stone. There was a shortage. It was early in the year. The gravel pit weren't all open yet. So we used what we had. I ended up using what A.S. Clark's had in their gravel pit, and we finished up with crushed stone from Sosimo Industries out of Jamaica, Vermont. So
All right, well, that certainly answers my question, and I hope the people who have asked these questions are listening also. Thank you, Mark,
Sure.
and a great job as usual.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. That sounds good. All right.
You're welcome.
We're going to continue on to Building Commissioners Report for Mr. Bruce Mello. You got it, Bruce.
Hi, everybody. First, I wanted to say, I want to echo what everybody's been making compliments about Mark. You know how I feel about Mark and the help he's done us, which leads me to asking him for a little more help. The first thing is, thank you, Mark, for fixing that door. It's freaking great. There's a lot of this
Oh,
freaking great
nice.
stuff going on lately. I don't know if I can get used to it, but thank you.
Nice. Yes, you're welcome.
Secondly, Olivia from Susie's called me yesterday. We got some bulbs going out in the preschool room, light bulbs, and I went over there and took a look at it. We got some bulbs going out intermittently all over the place. Would you have, before you answer the question, that, and I'm looking to install a short gutter, which the chair of the select board gave to me last year, on the outside of Susie's, on the church, facing the church wall, a short piece. And I wanted to put one over the bulkhead in the town office to eliminate, we've talked about this before, Mark, to eliminate the water going into the basement. Do you have any time that you could do any of this? I know this is getting really heavy duty time of the year. So if you can answer.
Yes, I feel those are tasks that I can accomplish in a one-day event. I usually go one day out of the month to read the fire extinguishers at the school, and if I have the materials ahead of time, I can plan a one day to accomplish the gutters and anything else that I can fit in for that day. So yes.
Okay, touch bases with me, Mark, and we'll coordinate. There's not that much materials involved, just another gutter, some hangers. There's really not much to do there. Oh, one other thing, I don't want to forget this. When you do the bulbs, you know how we have the bulbs in the basement? They were all moved into the boiler room. If you could, I think they're all moved in the boiler room. If you can give me a count when you're done, how many are left, because we have to see how we're doing with it.
I will do that. Yes.
Thanks. Now I'll move on to, I'm going to split it apart. I'm going to keep going on the daycare first. Stan, you remember the conversation? Oh, let me back up a little bit. We had a discussion about the frequency of the water testing. And I called Nancy Burke 2 weeks ago, and she didn't respond back. Well, I called her back yesterday and she did respond back. A couple of things. First of all, everything you and I discussed, Stan, everything, I don't think I forgot a point, went over with her. She was ready for me. So she had her excuses all set, that it was scheduling and car things going wrong, so on and so on. And I did make the point that we were really not inclusive to having a testing 5 months apart. And she didn't say she was not going to try to do it, but she gave me that spiel. But she also said this, that one of the major reason why she tries to get it to the first beginning of the period is if there's an issue, we can conquer it before we have to face any additional hassles from the state. So going forward, I don't see there's going to be anything different, but just the fact that I had called her up and Guy had already had said something to her about it, maybe this will smooth out a little bit better. I don't know. And I don't know if that satisfies what you were concerned with, Stan, but pretty much that was the best way I could handle it.
Sounds good, Bruce. Thank you. You're muted.
What?
I said thank you. Appreciate your efforts on that. I know it's a touchy situation, but.
All right. Now, when I spoke to her, I, as you and I know, Stan, that we discussed, that I mentioned to her about the water system being installed. we had a discussion about it, and I thanked her for the input that she had given me to help me make the appropriate decisions over and above the stuff that I had been doing. That all being said, she had said to me, you really might think about calling the Department of Water and telling them that you installed that water system. There might be a permit issue. So I said, okay. So I got off the phone with her and he emailed Diana Butler. Diana Butler was the person that had done the source. Are you familiar with source protection, Stan? No. What that is, what would you call that? That's to mitigate anything that could happen to the daycare pollution in the building. A complete report has to be done every 3 years. And we were late last year because we were notified about it. So it was done last summer and it has to be done again next December 2022 in light of it being due in January of 2023. Am I going too fast, Stan? No, okay. And I'm not trying to not include everybody else, but I'm trying to update him because of him not being around. Okay. With that being said, like I said, I did contact Diana and she gave me 4 names that I could choose to call from the state. I did reach one person this morning and she wanted to know what we installed. I pulled it up on the computer, told her what it was. And she says, well, that's basically because we don't have a very serious hard water situation, which was tested by Gary Line from Line Well. I told her what the water softener system was, and we talked about it. And she said, well, no, that's just pretty much a regular house system. So you don't have to worry about doing a permit. But everybody know this, in the future, if we have to do something kind of on the major side, we have to contact it with change of the water system, ultraviolet system or whatever. It's good idea, good practice to contact Department of Water so that they know what we're doing in case there's a permit issue involved. Okay, any questions there? Okay, just a moment. I'm just looking at my notes. Okay, that's it for Susie's. Now the town hall, I want to echo what Guy said. You guys were kicking tushy last week. It looks great down there. And Scott, the guy that came in to mitigate the mice, did what we spent time and went over everything. And he did the ceiling that he said he was going to do on the outside. He set up 10 traps in the basement. I could only find 9, but that's okay. And that was done Friday. I came back Sunday morning and I only found 9 traps, like I said, and 8 of the 9 traps had mice in them. The second day, Monday, there were 4. Yesterday, there were 2. This morning, there was 1, and then there was 1 when I came in tonight, and I'm going to do a little bit of a survey when after the meeting and come again tomorrow with my intent of going to 0 and keeping it that way for a while. It is the intention of Scott to come back in 2 weeks, as he said, it's a part of our $800. I did believe I noticed where the nest is. If you look at the basement, the bulkhead door that we fixed, Mark and I fixed, at the top of it, to the left, you can see a hole and you can see insulation. It's a round hole. I'd say that hole's 1 inch anyway, and it looks like that's where they were coming out of the walls of the building. And that's where most of the mice are getting killed, just west of that hole, about 1 foot or so in the traps that I'm setting. Okay. Now, as far as the rest of the traps go, after the first day, when I got the 8, of course, I've got some underneath the select board room in the basement there. That stopped. I haven't had any more in that area at all since then, which tells me he did a great job sealing that this part of the building. The rest of the catches have been around the bulkhead area in that vicinity, above the back bulkhead, to the east side of the bulkhead and the west side of the bulkhead. I believe the first day I had a mouse in the southwest, no, excuse me. Yeah, southwest corner facing the driveway. I had a catch there. And the one he put on the floor in the basement on the southeast has never had one. And after that first day, the southwest one hasn't had a repeat. So if I keep getting a clean out supposedly on the south side of the building and the crawl space, I'm going to concentrate my traps more towards the bulkhead area and see what that does. But as of this point, it looks like it's being mitigated pretty well. And of course, what we're looking for, which is to eliminate what was inside the building and hopefully nothing's getting in anymore. That's yet to be determined, but it appears that that might be the situation. I'm hopeful, but I'll know in the coming days. If we start, there was one this morning, one at night. If I go to 0 at any one point and it stays that way, then I'll know the mitigation that Scott did was a success. But if when he comes in 2 weeks, if we're still having an issue, we'll just have to, I'll have him revisit it. We'll just see where I think the issue is coming from and see if he can correct it. And I believe that's all for me. If I forget something, I'll let you know.
I'm good.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you, Bruce. Very good job down keeping track of the 16 mice. Yum.
Is it 16?
16, and I counted as of the 2 that you just brought in, so that's amazing. Okay, all right. We're early by a minute getting into communications. Just want to let you know. All right, email. Gary Lavorgna has offered to trim back the lilac bush at the main office. I'm okay with him doing that. Does anybody object to it? No?
No.
Okay, so I'll tell him that's good. I did get an email. The town of Newfane is working on their planning book. And so they asked if there was any hazardous mitigation plans that we had any input on for Newfane. Does anybody have any concerns about hazards in Newfane that they are aware of that they should possibly address? I'm pretty good with their committee working on that. Okay, so I'll just respond. Yes, Stan.
There is a list at a website in the state of Vermont that lists hazardous sites in each town. And I think the only one that I'm aware of was the gas station on Route 30, just north of town. As you know, to answer your question, I believe that has been mitigated, but after this last individual left, you know, I don't know anything about it. It might behoove them to look at the website to see if it's still on that list or whether it's been taken off the list.
Okay, yes, I know what you're talking about. That I can send that request into then the gas station. All right, that gas station, just let you know, has been purchased or is going to be rented to the Lost Mile Automotive Repair. He currently is working by the Putney Recycling Center on Putney Mountain Road, and he's going to be moving up in there for additional business here in town. But just have them check the website that the gas station, yeah, for the tanks and so on and so forth. Because they've cleaned it up quite a bit recently. Okay. Very good.
They had an uncapped landfill, an unlined landfill for ages, but I don't think there are any problems with any of the monitoring wells that were installed around it. And property values in that general area have been on par with the rest of the town. So, you know, it's I can't see where that apparently would be a problem, but the gas station, maybe.
Okay. All right, very good. I'll send him a note on that. All right, moving on. Last night, the Wyndham Regional Commission had a Zoom meeting on the basics of town planning, and I do apologize. I did not get into that meeting last night, I think. But Stan Noga, you said that you were going to attend, and also Daniel Dobson from the Planning Committee was going to attend. Just briefly, was it a valuable meeting for the way they ran it?
I
Stan?
believe it was, I feel it was, it hit the highlights and the topics, distinguished between ZBAs and the various types of structures that could be adopted by a town and handling planning and zoning. So for Dan's purposes, there was a Dan there, but they didn't have our last name, so I was not sure it was him. But I think it was helpful for me, and I'm somewhat familiar with planning in that when I was doing my appraisal work, that needed to be something that was investigated to determine whether the house I was looking at was in compliance with zoning. And if it wasn't, were the proper documents in place? So you kind of get a feel for how each town structures their system. And I think there were others from the county that were there. There might have been 8 of us and 9 of us, maybe 10. Wasn't a largely attended group, but the presentation itself was in a written format. He put everything up that was pertinent to us. And he was very explanatory and helpful in his approach. So it was worth it. It was worth it. To answer your question.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you attending, and I know everybody has time constraints and things come up, but I appreciate you attending that. Thanks again, Stan. And I think we still have to do our town plan in 2 years. So, and Tom Kavat is aware of that as well. All right, the next thing I have on my list for communications, the American Rescue Plan funds are available to towns. VLCT requests towns to fill in a certification form for funding. I emailed VLCT and Tom Kavat both wrote to us. Appears that Brookline may have $55,485 allocated to us. So I am going to do the little research and find out a little bit about the certification and how quickly I need to sign it and get it to you. But if I don't, I can bring it to the board at the July meeting. Let me write it here. For the funding. And let you know how that is, but that's a chunk of change. That's good. All right. Other than that, we'll go into the regular mail. Yes, sir.
There was only one thing there that the town had to apply for that within a 30-day window. Did you see that part also?
Yes, VLC requires town to fill in a certification for funding. Yes, we have 30 days to do that. So I'm going to check out the time frame and to see if I need to bring something to the select board or not. And it's possible that if we do have to have a special meeting for setting the tax rate, and if this can fit into that special meeting, it would be on the same agenda and we would do a quick Zoom on that. Stan?
Yeah, there was a meeting at VLCT online this morning at 11 o'clock. It was an hour in length, actually 45 minutes, that dealt with this very issue. And it was very helpful. And there's a lot of resources. And if you need to know the ropes that need to be looked at and pulled, they're a tremendous source. They got a lot of stuff online.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. All right. Excellent.
Okay, I'll go back and look at that video.
Yeah. Yeah, VLCT, if they put their diversity training in a recorded format, that's also a good way to go back, but they keep things up online. That's great.
I wrote a
So
number.
I'll let you.
I wrote a number of stuff down in terms of the easiest places to access, and I will email them to you after the meeting tonight.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on, regular mail, we got a newsletter from Valley Cares, also looking for money. I told you about the CODA and CODA contract for fuel services, which we already talked about. We already talked about the Triple T trucking increasing the swap out fee for $13 per swap out. So at that point, it leads us to our next item, payroll orders.
Look at the time.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the payroll warrant number 2021-23 in the amount of $6,941.96, which was dated June 9th, 2021. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving payroll warrant 2021-23 dated June 9th, 2021 for $6,941.96 signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? No opposed. Payroll order warrant has been approved. Thank you. Next, I'd like to go to the accounts payable warrant number 2021-24 dated June 16th, 2021 in the amount of $243,462.96. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by, was that Gwen? Who said?
Yes.
Gwen, thank you. And the discussion, I just will point out that that figure is so large because it includes our payment to the education portion of the bill for us. All right. Okay, no further discussion. All those in favor of approving accounts payable warrant 2021-24 dated June 16th for $243,462.96 signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, very good. Thank you. That passes as well. So the agenda for the next meeting, which is Wednesday, July 7th, can you believe it's July 7th, 2021? I have on here the treasurer's report for the fiscal year, select board's recommendations for changing the budgeting reports. Okay, we have to do, was pointed out by Judy Akampora that a list of approved vendors needs an annual review and approval. It's sort of like our appointments. The legislative body may approve ... for regular or incidental purchases, and it shall be made annually at the first regular meeting of the legislative body held in the town's fiscal year as per our purchase policy. So the first meeting will be in July. I am going to ask the treasurers to look through the year and make a list of those incidental people who are vendors. I'll send the list out to you before the meeting so that if you notice that somebody should be on it that isn't on it, we can add it, and then it will be on the agenda in July so that we are in compliance with our own policy. I also will add to the agenda the Windham County Sheriff's Office Animal Control Officer information, Fact TV information on looking at the Zooming and the remote select board meetings, an update on the Round Schoolhouse Grant Project, office cleaning, and anything else I can think of. Yes, Dan.
One of the reasons the west wall of the attached shed to the Round Schoolhouse has rotted as much as it has is that there's an accumulation of leaves for years worth. And it's up above, there's a trench at the back wall, which is excellent idea. There needs to be a mechanism by which it's cleaned at least on an annual basis. I don't know if that's something that can be worked out with Mark, or whether there's a groundskeeper that does mowing that can do that, or it needs
mowing
to
people,
be
right?
done.
We might do it.
All right, so is this something, Mark, you would do, or is this something I should talk to our landscaper about?
No, it's something that I could do. Yeah, I was, I guess, unaware from not going behind the shed, but yes, I would. That's something I could fit into my schedule as well.
Super. Thank you, Mark.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else under the agenda? Oh, geez, we got some time left. All right. At this point, I have worked hard on this agenda. At this point, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, the meeting is over and it is 8:42. Got my hammer.
Good job, Dot. Good job, Dot.
Bruce, you
Good
look
job.
good
Thank you,
on,
Dot. Appreciate it.
Very
you
good
look
job,
good on the
Dot.
laptop, Bruce.
All right, everybody, thank you. I appreciate your help and everything that you do, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Nighty night.
Thanks,
All right,
everybody.
good night.
See ya.
Boy, that went awful smooth.